In the Middle East, tensions show no sign of easing. Over the weekend, Iran-backed Hezbollah in Lebanon and Houthi rebels in Yemen launched new attacks on Israel. Overnight, in the occupied West Bank, the Israeli military has carried out new raids. Let's bring in Sasha Petrusik, who's traveled to the Palestinian territory to give us some rare insight into what's happening there, and he's live in Ramallah this morning. Those new Israeli raids, Sasha, they follow an extensive ground operation just recently. What has led to this increased military presence?
Well, Heather, yes, you're right. These ground operations have been going on almost daily since last October. The war in Gaza may well be on the other side of Israel, but it is being felt here, and certainly the almost 3 million Palestinians who live in the occupied West Bank are also feeling it in many, many different ways. In particular, there have been ongoing military operations in the north. In Jenin was the major one, but also in refugee camps across the West Bank. These are areas that Israel considers hotbeds of militant activity and has been sending in lots of soldiers, lots of police, also munitions and techniques that they have not used in the past, using armed drones, for instance, attack drones, to go after people that they consider to be armed militants. About 700 people have been killed, Palestinians, since the war in Gaza began here in the occupied West Bank, in these various raids and operations that Israel has been carried out. Now, some of these have been people that Israel labels as militants, some of them armed, some of them unarmed, that they have been going after, but also they have also managed to kill civilians, including children. So it's been a very, very long process and a very difficult one for people who live here. Human rights groups say that much of what Israel is doing here is actually illegal. I spoke to the program director for Human Rights Watch, who lives here in Ramallah.
They are bound by international human rights law, police standards for use of lethal force. It can only be used when strictly necessary to protect life. It's a last resort. Instead, it's being used as a first resort instead of doing what police all over the world do. If you think somebody is engaging in wrongdoing, you go and you arrest them, and you use the minimum amount of force necessary to conduct that arrest. The Israeli military has been engaging in unlawful killings in the West Bank, using lethal force at people, sometimes children, running away.
So we're hearing that as obviously a very difficult part of life here in the West Bank, but even other parts of daily life have been difficult. There have been huge economic problems because some 120,000 people here in the West Bank who rely on jobs in Israel have not been able to get to those jobs because the wall has been sealed. There have also been ongoing attacks by settlers on Palestinian villages. Just today, we're hearing about another attack on a Palestinian school here in the occupied West Bank, which has been condemned by the government. But the government of Israel and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been criticized for not doing enough to rein in settlers who have gone up against many of these Palestinians. Heather?
Sasha, we continue to hear questions about what will happen in Gaza after the war. Any sense of what role the West Bank might play?
Yes, well, there's been a lot of questions. And again, the government in Israel has been criticized for not having a plan afterwards. But one of the key issues is who will govern Gaza if Hamas is kicked out, which is what Netanyahu has vowed to do, and vowed to kick them out of government as well as out of the territory. It's been unclear what the ruling party in the West Bank, which is Fatah, it's a very different party from Hamas, what role it will play. Today, the Prime Minister of the West Bank, Mohammed Mustafa, had an op-ed piece in the Washington Post where he laid out this plan for what he calls one Palestine, and basically jumping forward to say that that the government here would be willing and interested, very interested in ruling Gaza afterwards. He said, with a permanent ceasefire, so once the fighting stops, the Palestinian government here stands ready to resume responsibility for the Gaza Strip, leading efforts to fully integrate governance across both it and the West Bank. So that's one prospect. It's been difficult in the past. It's not clear whether that's what Israel would like to see either. They've had a bit of a love-hate relationship in terms of allowing the Palestinian Authority to rule parts of the occupied territories. It has suggested that maybe some international force might want to rule Gaza, but that's also seems unlikely because nobody's put up their hands. Heather?
Sasha, thank you so much. Sasha Petrusik reporting there in Ramallah in the West Bank.